What's going on, guys? I'm Chris, and today I've got a very special video. I'm going to be giving my top 5 favorite coming-of-age movies with a few honorable mentions, but I'm not doing this alone. I'm joined by longtime YouTube friend Nathan Jones, and how this video is going to work is we're each going to give some honorable mentions, and then we will simply take turns giving our 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. We'll just alternate back and forth. Before I give my list, I just wanted to say, definitely hit that like button and comment your favorite coming-of-age movies down below, because I would definitely be interested to hear what they are. It's one of the best genres for sure. Alright, so I'm going to hand it over to Nathan so he can introduce himself and give his honorable mentions.
Well, thanks, Chris. Hey, everyone. My name's Nathan Jones, and I'm really excited to be working with Filmstock. This is really awesome. This is a good collaboration, and we're talking about coming-of-age stories, coming-of-age movies. These are some of my favorite films because these are the ones that really get me emotionally. So before we get into my top 5, I actually want to mention some honorable mentions. All right, so let's talk about my honorable mentions. The first one that I want to mention is Barry Jenkins' Moonlight. So this is a Best Picture winner and is rightly deserved because I think it's better than La La Land, but it's just got really amazing performances by Mahershala Ali as well as the 3 actors who play the main character in this story. And it's a story that's not conventional to what we're used to in cinema. It is a black man and also a gay man, but you're seeing 3 different parts of his life from adolescence into his young adulthood, and it's just really masterfully shot, masterfully directed, but also masterfully acted. So check out Moonlight if you haven't seen it, because it's phenomenal. But we're moving on from there to another film that only came out a few years ago, and it's another directorial debut by Bo Burnham, and that's 8th Grade. Probably Chris from Hertastic Review's favorite film of that year. Don't quote me on this, but also I'm attacking Chris. But this is a really, really fantastic film with Elsie Fisher. It's such a phenomenal piece of work. It's also a contemporary as well, because we are seeing the modern era of social media kind of take hit, but this is a time in everyone's life. 8th Grade is not a really fun time for anybody, but 8th Grade, it just barely missed my top 5. It's really, really great. But moving from 8th Grade to a film from the 80s, a John Hughes classic, we see 16 Candles, starring Molly Ringwald on her 16th birthday. See that iconic image in the front cover here? I really like this cover on this edition of the Blu-ray. But I love this film. It's a classic. It's a classic film that I remember growing up watching. Does it have some moments where maybe it doesn't really relate to today's world? Maybe. But at the same time, it's a classic, and it's certainly deserved to be respected. And this barely missed the cut for my films in my top 5. So, Chris, what are your favorite honorable mentions?
Alright, so now I'm going to give my honorable mentions, and I'm not going to spend too much time on them just because I really want to talk about my top 5 picks. So the first honorable mention is going to be Ferris Bueller's Day Off by John Hughes, starring Matthew Broderick, and this is like one of the definitive high school movies. I really do believe that. Everyone wanted to skip school when they were in high school, and Ferris Bueller was just such a cool kid who got away with so much stuff. So seeing his day off and his interactions with his friend Cameron, all the stuff that they get to do, it makes you jealous of them, makes you want to go back to your high school days and mess around with your friends and have a great time. So that's my first honorable mention. The next one is going to be The Breakfast Club, another John Hughes movie. And this movie centers on 5 students who are in detention in high school, and throughout the course of the film, they have their shenanigans, but they really grow together and form a bond by the end that puts a smile on your face, really warms your heart, and it really touches on the idea of how we can become our parents in a way. Very deep stuff in my opinion, but the final shot of that movie and the final lines are absolutely brilliant. And my last honorable mention is a recent pick, actually. This came out in 2018, and it was Jonah Hill's directorial debut, mid-90s. I absolutely loved this movie. I think it made my top 10 in that year because it's only about an hour and 24 minutes, but it's such a simple story about this young boy growing up in California. I believe it's the Los Angeles area, I want to say, and he's a skater who's trying to fit in with the older group of kids, and he really just wants to feel wanted because he's got a rough home life. Seeing this kid grow up is just a very relatable story because we've all had to face some adversity in our life, and while the situation might not directly apply to everyone, we can all take away themes from it, and I think it's got a really great score by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. So mid-90s, that's my last honorable mention. So now I'm going to hand it over to Nathan so he can give his number 5.
Moving right into our top 5. What is my 5th pick? It's Peter Weir's 1989 classic Dead Poets Society, starring Ethan Hawke, who's one of my favorite actors of all time, and also Robin Williams, who plays a phenomenal instructor, a teacher in this fictional world that definitely feels like it could actually exist. Now, what really drives this film for me is that I actually am a teacher myself. I'm an instructor at a university, and the thing that I really enjoyed about this film is it reminds me of the teachers that really inspired me. And that is the reason why this coming-of-age story for Ethan Hawke's character and a lot of the students in his class really see is that there are people out there who are really looking for the best interest in them and really want to see their potential grow. So this is one of my favorite films of all time. Dead Poet Society certainly makes my list for coming-of-age stories, and it's a really great one. If you haven't checked it out, definitely go check it out. Now, Chris, what is your number 5 pick?
All right, so coming in at number 5 for me is Greta Gerwig's Lady Bird. This movie came out in 2017, starring Saoirse Ronan, and basically tackles her life in Sacramento, California, as she has to go to this private school, and she really kind of gets sick of the modern way of life. She wants to get out. She wants to really experience something new in life, and seeing her grow up, it's very intriguing, to say the least, and I feel like we can all relate to it. It stars Timothée Chalamet and Lucas Hedges in supporting roles, so you get to see the character of Lady Bird go through various romances and start to discover things about herself as she really does come of age. Very just heartfelt, and it also touches on a mother-daughter relationship that is extremely relatable because a critical part of coming of age is your relationship you have with your parents. And I think that's extremely applicable in this movie, something that everyone can take out of it. Now over to Nathan so he can give his number 4.
All right, now we're moving on to number 4. So number 4 is a film that I would consider probably the best representation of a coming-of-age story, and that is Richard Linklater's Boyhood. So this took 12 years for Richard Linklater and cast to make. Eller Coltrane, Patricia Arquette, Ethan Hawke, they're all fictional people in this story now, but it's actually, in real life, 12 years of actual life of Eller Coltrane, and so you're seeing him grow up. It's just really phenomenal. The story, we have the fictionalized divorce of Ethan Hawke and Patricia Arquette's character, and you see those trials and tribulations of Eller Coltrane's character as he's trying to grow, and there's a lot of moments that I feel like definitely felt very similar to my own childhood and my own experiences growing up, and really kind of just seeing that unfold. My parents aren't divorced per se, but there are moments in this film that definitely feel like it hits home, and it's a really, really great representation of coming of age. And if you haven't seen Boyhood, this is definitely probably the quintessential film for that. So check out Boyhood if you haven't checked it out. Now back to you, Chris.
So coming in at number 4 for me is The Spectacular Now. The main reason that I love this movie is how authentic and realistic it is. It really did make me feel nostalgic for certain elements of my high school years, particularly the relationship between Miles Teller and Shailene Woodley's characters. They both brought their A game. Some of the best performances in coming-of-age movies that I think I've seen. And they really portray two people who genuinely fall in love. And you get to see this and follow it throughout the movie. I think that it's just crafted so well, and it's such a perfect glimpse into the high school life. It also touches on ideas of addiction and coming to terms with your past, something that everyone has to do at certain points in their life, because we're not all proud of what we've done. We all make mistakes. The Spectacular Now, I think, is a very fitting title for it, because Miles Teller is living in the now because he's scared of his past and he feels like he can't return to it. It's something that we all have to face, and I think this movie handles this idea very well. Now over to Nathan so he can give his number 3.
Moving on to number 3 is the film that probably inspired Boyhood, and it's actually a documentary series, and that is the Up series. Richard Apt directs the Up series starting in 1964 with 7 Up. You see this revolutionary documentary series following 14 kids who are all 7, who are all telling, their stories about what they're planning on doing with their lives. A lot of them have a lot of different social backgrounds. So some of them are rich, some of them are orphans, some of them have this trajectory in education. Some want to go into the working class. One wants to be a jockey. There are so many really fantastic things. I didn't mention this is all in England. But then, subsequently, every 7 years, 14 Up, 21 Up, all the way up to 63 Up, which came out in 2019, just last year, Richard Apt directs this really fantastic documentary series, and the really great thing about this is that it's not all just, this social experiment. It's at the same time, there's a lot of trouble behind the scenes, but also to the lives of the people involved in this project, because it really is invasive in their privacy. But at the same time, you're seeing this really great experiment, and you're seeing these lives unfold, and all of these people grow. And also, hopefully, some of them will learn from their experiences, and they can look back and they can understand what really makes life so special. And so this is definitely one of my favorite series when it comes to coming of age stories. So check out the Up series if you haven't. This is the Region B, Region 2. So I have a region free player, but it's certainly worth checking out if you have one of those. But yeah, check out the Up series. Now back to you, Chris.
All right, so coming in at number 3 for me is Rob Reiner's Stand By Me. I think this is another definitive coming-of-age movie. This movie just follows 4 kids as they go on an adventure in a small town to find a dead body, surprisingly, but along the way, you really just get to learn about each of these characters. This movie is just so relatable to any kid who is growing up because everyone hung out with their friends growing up and they went on adventures and played outside, and it just really makes you have a longing for that, and it makes you understand that when you're like 12 years old, the friends that you have then at that time are probably like the best friends you'll have in your life. And what I mean by that is no one really cares. There's not all this drama. You haven't become an adult yet. There's not real world issues to deal with. Ignorance is bliss, as they say. You're just living there to have fun. You can mess with each other as kids. You can do stupid things, and you're just learning to live life. Now over to Nathan so he can give his number 2.
Moving on to my second pick. My second pick is one that's probably the most personal for me, one of the most personal. It's the film that I go back to when I'm feeling down, and it's when I want to need a smile. And that is The Way, Way Back. And now this is starring Sam Rockwell, Steve Carell, and the main character, Liam James. We have Toni Collette, Allison Janney. There are so many people in this film that are just so fantastic. Now, this is just a really simple story of a summer where this kid, he's going through a really tough time because his mom is about to marry his stepdad, Steve Carell, or maybe not marry, their stepdad, and he's going on the summer vacation. He's staying with them, but he really doesn't like his stepdad. He really doesn't know what to do in this town, and it's a summer town. It's just like kind of like right off the beach and whatnot. And so he wanders off into this water park who's run by Sam Rockwell. And Sam Rockwell is also going through a really difficult time because he's lost focus. He doesn't really know where he's at, and the two together really grow. And that's what really makes me puts a smile on my face. If you haven't seen The Way, Way Back, it's such a fantastic film. It'll make you smile, it'll make you cry, it'll do all those things. It's a really hard movie to watch, but at the same time, it's one of those films that's so inspirational. So check out The Way, Way Back if you haven't. That's my number 2 pick. Now back to you, Chris.
All right, so we're down to my number 2 pick, and for me, that's going to be The Perks of Being a Wallflower. Now, I had not seen this movie until very recently, but I am so happy that I did because talk about a movie that makes you nostalgic for your high school years. I mean, come on, this one hits the nail on the head. It is the perfect representation of high school. It's about Logan Lerman's character who's really struggling with some hardships from his past, as well as trying to fit in high school, and who wasn't nervous on their first day of high school. Even if you already had friends coming into high school, it's a very new setting and experience, and it deals with adjusting to changes, which I find very applicable in my life. His character becomes friends with Sam and Patrick, played by Ezra Miller and Emma Watson, and I just love their chemistry. I love seeing them explore high school and really just get to know themselves as people. The camaraderie that they form throughout the story, it's so heartwarming. The final monologue and lines of this movie are just so perfect. They wrap it up so well, ties the bow perfectly, and it really just puts a smile on my face. Now over to Nathan so he can give his number 1 pick.
Moving right along to my favorite coming-of-age story. This is a film that makes me cry, and I've seen it so many times, and it only came out a few years ago. And this is a very melancholic film, I will mention, and that is Luca Guadagnino's Call Me By Your Name. This is a film that runs the gamut of all the emotions that I have in my life. Now, all of us, I wouldn't say all of us, a lot of us have had summer romances. I've had a few myself, and so this one hit right at home, where there's that magical moment where you kind of feel like nothing else matters in the world, and there are people and places that exist that are just so mystical in your experience growing up. And this film, starring Armie Hammer and Timothée Chalamet, directed by Luca Guadagnino, is just that film. This film really just reminds me of my own romantic awakening, but also those lost relationships that may or may not have worked. And that's the thing I really love about this film, is it's just definitely one that pulls on your heartstrings and definitely gets you to think about that experience and what you can learn from it, because regardless of how it goes down, you're really thankful that it actually existed, it actually happened. And that's what makes life worth living. And that's what I think the big theme of these coming of age stories is. It's what makes life worth living. And that's what's so great about these films.
So coming in at number 1 for me is definitely Dazed and Confused, Richard Linklater's 1993 masterpiece. I think this is the best hangout movie to ever be made. It's the last day of school, the first day of summer, and just seeing these kids, most of them are juniors, and seeing them get ready for their last summer before senior year. It's like one big hoorah to celebrate their second to last summer together, and I think just seeing that is awesome. Absolutely adore Matthew McConaughey's character Wooderson in this movie. I think he's got some of the best quotes in any coming-of-age movie. But the main takeaway I have from Dazed and Confused is that it really does hit home on the idea that you just have to keep living your life. You can't worry so much about what other people think of you and what expectations people might have for you. It's okay to go your own way and not follow the path that everyone else goes on. And I think that's super applicable to my life, and it's always resonated with me. So Dazed and Confused is my favorite coming-of-age movie. I think that's a wrap for our coming-of-age video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I want to say thank you so much, Nathan, for coming on and doing this with me. It was a lot of fun, and it was long overdue for us to have a collab together.
So I want to say thank you so much to Chris for letting me come on his channel and do this with him. This has really been fun. I hope you enjoy our picks, and I will see you all next time. I'm not jonesing around.
If you haven't subscribed to Nathan's channel, definitely go check him out. He's got awesome Criterion videos and videos in general, so just go give him some support for sure. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to my channel, Film Stocked. It would mean the world to me. We're actually getting pretty close to 400 subscribers, so that would be awesome. Definitely like this video. Comment your favorite coming-of-age movies down below. Be on the lookout for more live streams every week and future videos coming. And until next time, I'll see you guys later.